So hello everyone, and welcome to another talk of the series on creative confidence, which I'm doing in collaboration with Right Aligned. I'm Teresa, and some of you might know me already. I'm a brand consultant and designer at my own studio, and also full-time head of design at the Financial Times. I'd like to just preface this talk with mentioning why I'm doing this. Creativity is a human trait, and as such, we all have it. But what we do lack sometimes is the confidence to name it, use it, and play with it. Whether it's because of imposter syndrome, being an introvert, or simply doing a non creative job, I want to help others come to terms with their own creative power. So I've connected with people I know in the industry who can share their experiences and let us in their creative world. And my guest today is Stephanie Specht, founder and designer of the award-winning Belgium-based Studio Specht, teacher and artist of her own right. Welcome, Stephanie. Thank you so much
Hi,
for doing
Teresa.
this.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Can you tell us a little bit about your career and what led you to where you are now?
I graduated from the academy in Antwerp, graphic design, and then I worked for 1 year in a company full time, but I really figured out quite soon that it was not something for me because I felt creatively blocked. But in the end, it was also good because of the fact that I felt creatively blocked, I started doing my own thing like after hours. So I would work in the daytime for the company, and in the evening and at night I would create my own things. And then I figured like, okay, maybe I can go like 50-50, like you work part-time in a company, and then for the rest you start to build your own business. And yeah, that's what I did pretty fast. And then from there on, everything developed. And I think the moment that I told, so I had like a couple of clients, but like when I was working part-time. But as soon as I told them like, okay, I'm going to become like 100% fully employed, they were all really happy. Like, okay, yeah, now you have more time for us. And then it started growing and growing and growing. But yeah, the first 10 years, I think I was more focused on making sure I had an income. And so I would take on basically every kind of job. So I wouldn't shift or be picky. But then it led me to having a portfolio, like a website where I would be able to show like so many different things, but there was no like real direction. There was not a real focus on what I really loved to do. So then it was clear to me like, okay, I need to become a little bit more not specialized. Yeah, maybe picky is the right word. Like feel like, okay, if I get a new job opportunity, do I feel good with it or not? Am I going to be really happy like doing the job? And then yeah, like I did that in the beginning a little bit, and then I started to do it more and more. And in the end, like I could fill my website with stuff that I just really, really loved doing. And then yeah, I think now it came to a point like when people go to my website, they only see work that I put my heart in, like passionate jobs. And when they like that, and it resonates with them, like they will contact me. And so yeah, it's the same thing, like it attracts more of that stuff. So yeah, I've been working since 2006 as a self-employed designer.
That's amazing. I was going to say you worked in quite a few places as well. How has that kind of fed into your practice?
That was like from mid-20s until no, from yeah, basically my whole 20s. But it was also because I was in a relationship with a guy from South Africa, and he kind of took me to these places, and wherever we would go for his job, then I would adapt and see like, okay, I'm now living here, like how can I work for local people But often it would be like a Belgian connection in, for example, in New York. I also have family living there. And then in South Africa, it was his family. But yeah, I made sure that I had kind of like a small network everywhere that I was living that felt like a support. But basically just because of being super social in these times that you generate clients as well, not only friends, but and I loved that time, and I had the energy for it, but in the end, towards only like around when I turned 30, I felt it was becoming really exhausting. Because I was much more busy with, okay, like what's happening, what's new, like really like the fear of missing out. And I wasn't able to balance it anymore. It was too much of everything. And then, I slimmed down in a way with that lifestyle. And now I don't do that anymore at all. I live a very calm life. I still love going, like I still love going abroad, and I still love going to big cities, and I still love to visit New York or Los Angeles, but I don't have the urge anymore to live there or to be nonstop part of that busy lifestyle. I just discovered nature is really much better for me than a big city, but that's just like 2 years ago. But I'm happy
Was that the
I had
pandemic?
another extreme. It already happened before the pandemic. I had a really big, like a severe health issue in 2017, and that kind of was an alarm bell for me to like slow down. So from 2017, I started to slow down with that lifestyle. It's good for me.
Amazing. Yeah, it's really important to kind of like obviously build your community, but then at the same time, you kind of need to balance that out with, your own needs and your own kind of, places to get nourished, whether that be nature and everything. But yeah, it's a fine balance, isn't it? I was going to say that you mentioned intuition as part of like your kind of creative process and the ability to reinvent yourself from time to time whenever you need that change. How do you think intuition and creative confidence are linked?
It's trying you have to block out as much as possible from the outside. So I think as a designer, you get inputs like nonstop from, like it's media, but it's also outside, or like when you are in a city, like there's an overload of visuals, and to be in touch with your like intuition during a creative process, it's really like going inwards and not going outwards, if you know what I mean. So it's almost like you should almost like meditate before you start working, but I mean, like that's really like hard to do because often you're also busy with communication before you start on a job. But I feel the more you focus really like on what's happening like inside and try to switch off your minds and just be in touch with like how you feel, it's a better thing to start a project from. I think you lose all touch with intuition when you're busy with emailing, communication, follow-up of a project. It's not possible. I mean, it is possible, but then you have to be a Buddhist or something. It's really a place inside of yourself that you have to look for and get in touch with to become, like fully how do you say, like open for that kind of creativity. Because for me, there's different kind of creativity. There's like creativity, like you get a job and you exactly know how to do it. Like you have all the technical tools, and then you're working from your mind and from like a very rational place, and there can be creativity in it. So like, for example, like the typesetting of a book, I'm just thinking of that now. You know, like how to do it, but you can be creative in it, but it's on a different level than when you, for example, you have to design a poster and there's nothing aside from the text input that is there, so there's no image, like you only have the text to work with. I think then you can work like more intuitively, like feel like, okay, what is this communication? What do they want to communicate? What kind of letters do I need for that? What kind of shapes does it require? It's from a whole, yeah, it's like, it's different because there's much more room to explore. And I think working from like an intuition point of view, or I don't know if that's the right combination, it demands as much space as much space as possible, where you can feel free, not a tight deadline,
not attached to results, isn't it?
Where you have the time.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask you as well, how do you think that being creatively confident can help people be successful in this industry? Do you think that that's like a thing, or that is, because obviously there's so many talented people there, but you know, sometimes they lack the confidence, and that's like something that you almost build. So I was just wondering how you built yours, and how do you think that's linked with success?
I think that what I talked about in the beginning of the talk, that's trying to be a little bit picky with the job that you do, so that what you show, you know, it's 100% who you are. And so like your portfolio is really like how you want to come across and what you love to do. And that gives you confidence, because you cannot lie about these things. You cannot come across as something else or someone else, because it's really you. I think that's a really important thing, that you, like when you work from the right place, like your heart and your passion, people really pick up on it. And you, yeah, it makes you feel confidence without it coming from a place from ego. I don't know if you know what I mean. It's not about showing off or trying to belong to a group of people, or about a trend or whatever. No, it's really like what you put in your work. So if you are honest to yourself in your work, it will give you confidence. And
authenticity.
Yeah,
it's so important, isn't it? Because that ultimately, if you're not living your life and your truth as a creative, then what are you doing? And ultimately, it's something that you build and you kind of need to, but I guess at the beginning, you're still trying to find out what you're doing and what you're good at and what you want to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like an ever evolving practice, isn't it?
Yeah. I think unless when you start out working in a company where the people really so the people who have more experience, they can really pick up on what your talent is, and that they are so kind to push you in that direction, and like nurture you and make sure that you get the right jobs, that you can flourish. I think that's also a way, you know, but like I'm talking about like the self-employed version of that. But like just stay true to who you are.
That's brilliant advice. Can you tell us when you first realized that you were creative?
Uh, like the real, like I've been always creative, but I think the realization came when I was 12, because there was one teacher telling me that when I would go to high school, I would have to go to an art high school. She strongly advised it to me and to my parents. And that was the first moment that I realized, like, ah, yeah, okay, like all these years, like I'm in like just a regular classic school, but the stuff that I loved doing the most was the creative part, like the drawing classes. But it was only, I don't know, like 1 hour a week, which was not enough for me. But I did like extra drawing classes in weekends. But I think the fact that that teacher told me you should go to an art school was like the aha moment. Like, okay, yeah, like everything that I always felt is now like in a way like being boxed, and this is what you need. So yeah, 12. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good to have someone as well when you get that kind of encouragement and validation from, kind of your teachers or someone with authority as well. That's so nurturing.
Yeah.
Although sometimes they can do the opposite. They can, you might be creative, but not in a conventional way, and then they might set you off track. Have you
Yeah.
ever struggled with, I don't know, like a time where you felt like your creativity was running low, or that that you were kind of like a bit lacked confidence in your skills, and what tips would you have to kind of overcome a creative block or something of
Yeah,
the
of
sort?
course. There's moments where I still feel creatively blocked. I don't know if it's possible that someone creative is always creative, like you, like everything in life is it's like waves, like ups and downs, and because of the downs you know what the ups are. And I think it's the same thing with creativity. You realize, like, when you are very creative, when you've had a very non-creative time. But I try to not fight those moments because I kind of value them. So when I feel creatively blocked, I always know, like, there will be a time where I feel creative again, where it will work out. And in like difficult situations with a client or something, I try to be very honest about it. Like, hey, like, I'm really working on it, but I'm not there yet. I need more time. And most of the people understand, because yeah, like, creativity is not something that you push a button and it's there, like. And back, like, when I was like, yeah, in my 20s and maybe beginning of my 30s, when I would feel creatively blocked, I would go out in the city and have like everything come at me, and just, yeah, like, doors open and just give me what you can give me. But then I feel there's moments where, like, I really value that, and I still do. But then there's also moments where I feel like, okay, maybe I should just block myself off of all inputs and just go out in nature. And then I go for a really long walk with my dog and try to not think about what I have to produce. That helps a lot. Yeah, it kind of depends on the mood that I'm in. But for sure, yeah, like, I have moments where I feel creatively blocked, and sometimes it has to do with maybe the job, like how they formulated it, that yeah, like the job is like, it's interesting and I want to start working on it, but then as soon as I have to start working on it and I read the briefing, there's maybe some words or yeah, like a description that I feel like, like, how am I gonna tackle this? But it can also just have nothing to do with the client and just the general state of mind where I'm at, like, if maybe there's way too many emails that are like not answered yet, or like maybe it's accounting, like bookkeeping, can be different stuff. So
yeah, it's a different sort of side of the brain that you use for that kind of, when you're running your own studio as well, you've got your business brain for the admin, and then your creative brain, and yeah, sometimes when you're like doing a lot of one thing, as you have to, it's like hard to then get into that other gear that you need to be, relaxed and in that kind of, you mentioned like almost meditative state to let things happen and just like sort of, work things out, or like, get inspired. Yeah, that's really great. A great way of putting it. Just like accepting that, it's part of the blocks are part of it, and feeling sometimes low about, those blocks is part of it as well, because we're not always at 100%. Obviously you've done so many iconic stuff. I mean, you've done, you do your work for the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Antwerp. You've worked with Google, Nike. I mean, so many cool brands. I was going to ask, have you got any tips or advice for someone who's starting out in the industry and kind of feels so far away from, even knowing what to do to kind of be successful?
Patience. And yeah, like connection with people. It's like I've like all these different jobs, like I didn't look for them myself. They really came to me because of the many human connections I've made in the last 10 years. It's strange to say, like I feel like you cannot push these things, like these things, they come your way, and it's kind of karma, or I don't know, like I think in my whole career, I never had a major focus on working for really big brands. I wanted to work for people who valued my work, and I wanted to just do stuff that I loved. Like life is short, or can be really short, or you don't know what's going to happen, so you better fill your day with stuff that you really love. And I think it's a luxury, like if you can, but there is a way to do it, but you have to be patient, and you have to value every person that comes your way. Like you have to realize that every human in your life can be a connection. Like maybe it's like 6 or 7 steps further away from a job that you would absolutely love. And sometimes it's really like it's in small places where you find it, yeah, I just think like patience is key, totally. It rhymes. And never push something, and never focus on money. Never. Like as soon as you start focusing on money, like for me, like stuff goes wrong. Like it's it's really strange. As like I really noticed, like if I focus on my work and on trying to put as much love in a job as possible, then so many good stuff happens. And when I focus on like, oh shit, like I need my income for the next month, or like I focus on, okay, like I want to get a job that I can cover like the next 3 months of income, then yeah, it's like nothing comes in. Really, like nothing comes in. There's I don't know, like there's this universal law or something, like when you focus on the good stuff that comes from the right place, like you get more of that. And I spoke
Absolutely.
to like people who just graduated through the academy, who also realized that, like, and it's really tough because you need to have an income, you need to make sure that there's money, but Money cannot be like the main focus. That's totally wrong. Yeah.
Absolutely. I could not agree more with you. It's such great advice. I love patience, human connection, and not being
Yeah.
motivated by money, even though it's
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
sometimes to kind of,
Yeah.
but it's such good advice. And
Mhm.
I'm sure that this will help a lot of people as well. So thank you so much for being my guest, Stephanie. It's been
My
a
pleasure.
real pleasure.
Yeah.
I'd
Thank
also
you.
like to thank everyone who's watched this, and I'm always looking for more ways of being creatively confident myself. So hit me up on my socials with any questions or if you'd like to connect that way. Thank you, and until the next talk.